And record. Thank you, Benita. We will record today's session. That way we can go ahead and post this into the Knowledge Center. If anybody has any folks that team that would like to leave a message the meeting today, I'm certainly welcome to go out there to the Knowledge Center and re-listen to it out there. Thanks for joining. My name is Joel Pato. I'm the technical manager for the EVA program. You may notice Maria is no longer with us. She has retired. Normally Maria was leading this meeting for us today. She has retired. She is no longer with DGS, but good for her. I'm excited for her. Wanted to kind of get a session and just kind of a little bit of housekeeping stuff before we really started in this. But if you would kindly please keep your lines muted to kind of keep out background noise. Unless you have a question, and certainly this is an open session. So once we start going through changes, if anybody has any issues, anybody has any questions, certainly free to speak up. It will be a free forum for anybody to speak up and voice your concerns. Are we hearing any kind of static? Is there any kind of issues with my voice?
Hey, Joel, it's Mark. I was hearing static. I just don't know if it was yours or somebody else not muted. So.
Okay.
Seems better now, though.
All right. Thank you, Terry. So yeah, I mean, if we could just keep your lines muted until you have a question, then feel free to speak up as needed. And we'll go through. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for attending today. Appreciate that. Taking time to go through this. And let me see, I'm just go ahead and start sharing my screen here and we can start going through this. Okay, can y'all see my screen? Should be seeing a screen that says new interface and integration changes as of 2/16 today's date. I will assume that y'all can see my screen. And I'm just going to kind of read through some of these things. I'm going to read through all the points. I know some of these we've covered in previous meetings, but if you're new to this meeting or didn't hear in the previous meeting, just kind of go through so we're all on the same page. But just kind of starting over here with number one, the prefixes for the orders will be changing for several of the values in the value system. So currently requisitions, PRs will start with REQ. QQs will start with REQ. And then once we get to the PO level, EPs will now start with PO, POD, PO, PODA, PO. DO is PO, and then PCO remains the same. And so that's the new structure kind of moving forward. Now, for converted POs, and these are orders that are converted into the new value application, those will get reassigned a new requisition and PO number. And it won't be just the prefix that is changing, the back end numbers will also change. Now, we will have a field in there so that you will know what the previous PO number is if you need to do kind of back end matching into your ERP. And so both numbers will be available, both the value PO number and the old PO number. We get into number two, and we have some things here that are not changing and some things that are changing. So over here, we will still be able to work with the version -V2-V3 that we currently are used to today. So if you have a order that is being imported into the system, it will get assigned V-V2-V3 and like that. Now, we are also continuing to are having a slight change in there also, where there will be a value appeal number also. That will work with the new structure format. And so with value, we have a concept we call amendments. In the old Ariba model, we had a concept called versioning. And it's basically a +1 difference and stuff. And so in a value, order numbers start with 0. And in Ariba, they started with 1. And so in order to maintain stability within the import process, we are continuing to leave the V structure in there. But the value structure will also be there, and we need to kind of look to keeping that in mind kind of into the future of, there will be a change eventually in the future, but in the immediate term, we're going to leave the dash V concept in there to enable the change. And then sometime in the future, we will probably switch over to that value. But, just due to timing and due to changes and issues on your end, we didn't want to introduce this change at this point in time. So we're going to essentially cover both concepts. We will cover both the version number and the amendment version number concept. So if you look over here, you're used to seeing, the dash V2, dash V3. You will continue to see that in the PO number field for import orders. For the order export file, we'll be adding a new column in there for the value PO number. This will be on the RH requisition header record. And so for orders that are imported, it will continue to have that number in there for the PO number, but the value of PO number field will have the new value of PO number structure, and with the prefix and the postfix with the new number. And this is what I was saying before for the PO number and the existing on the requisition header layout. The PO number will continue to have the number that you're used to seeing, the number from your ERP PO value. So in this scenario, a 501_003456, and then with the version number of -V2, -V3 as orders change. We are also adding a number on the receiving header, the VH record, for the Ariba PO number. And this is important for if you were doing receiving against old orders in your ERP solution, we needed essentially a crosswalk PO number to the old Ariba PO number so that you continue doing your matches on your side. And so this value of the Ariba PO number will be stored on the receiving header in the VH on the VH file. So this next one, letter D, this is something new and something I want to make sure to talk through with you. So the fiscal year, and this isn't the fiscal year based on the date and time that the order was created. This is the fiscal year where we have the ability to essentially pick the fiscal year that we want the order essentially recorded towards. Previously, this field was on the RH record and on the RA record for requisition accounting. We are removing the fiscal year from the requisition header, and it will only be on the requisition accounting record. Going forward, the accounting is in the value, they don't use the term accounting, they use the term allocations. And so the fiscal year will be there on the allocations level, and you will have the ability to pick fiscal years by accounting line and stuff. And so it does actually introduce an additional piece of flexibility there, where not the entire order needs to be covered, for a fiscal year, but you could actually break it down by accounting line and a little bit there. So that is a new update. The fiscal year will no longer be on the requisition header. Now that field will still be on the requisition header, but it will come in. And here is another new piece, letter E. So the accounting line number is changing from what we are used to today. Currently today, the accounting line number reinitiates and starts at 1 for every order. Going forward in Evalua, the accounting line number will be a sequential number. And so it will continue to increment for every order. So you will never see a accounting line of 1 being returned back to you or in the system. They are a sequential number that continues to build and will continue to go up. And so each accounting line will have a unique number associated to it. Now, orders that are converted into a value, those will be assigned a new accounting number moving forward and stuff. And so some of your existing orders that came over with accounting line 1, 2, 3 will be reassigned a new accounting number as part of the conversion process. Then as we start going down, I kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, but so there's some value of fields or some Ariba fields that we currently have today that just don't translate to a value. We don't have an value of field for those fields, and we're not bringing them forward. So that we don't change the record layout, the file layout, we are leaving those fields in there for now. But they will come over as a null value if we are not carrying those fields forward. And here below, I have given you some examples of some of the fields that are not carrying forward and on which file they are on, whether it be the requisition header, the requisition lines, accounting, receiving header, receiving lines. And so those are some of the fields that we are not bringing forward. And then on letter G is a new concept with Evalua. And so this may or may not affect you as you are importing orders or, with the order export. Evalua has a concept of amended. And essentially what amended is any previous version switches to amended status. Where this may be valuable is if there are several versions that you're changed with of an order that you change within the same day. All the previous versions, except for the current version, will be switched to a status of amended. So you'll see that amended status both in the UI and on the order export. If you create an order and change it multiple times during the same day. I know that's not a very common scenario, but I certainly wanted to call it out to make you aware of it. And so I know I'm kind of going through these kind of fast, and so I will kind of stop here for a second and kind of reach out to y'all to see what kind of questions, concerns, issues. Anybody? Okay, and you don't have to necessarily speak up now. You're certainly welcome to, as you start to digest this information, as you get in and start doing your testing. If you're running any kind of issues, you have any kind of questions, feel free, you're welcome to reach out to me. We also had a news name on the communication that went out. Anu is the developer for the BizTalk application. He's been with us for years, working with Maria for years and years. And, so if any kind of questions, feel free to reach out to either one of us. And we can help get you pointed in the right direction and talk through whatever issues we have or questions. So there are 30 files. The file layouts are not changing. We're leaving those remaining the same. Now, there is one addition that I would like to call out here, and I don't want to get you confused on it, but I certainly wanted to make you aware of it. So currently today in the 30 files, we send vendors that are in active status. There is an additional status that you can receive an order against, and it's kind of badly named. It's more named for our internal use, but it's called bad address status. And this is a scenario that we use internally, that if we send out invoices and we get invoices returned to us from the Postal Service with a bad address, we mark the vendor status as bad address so that we can kind of go through and clean that up and get that address fixed. Now, bad address doesn't necessarily mean that an order can't go to that address, but or there hadn't been an order created against that address. So we are updating the O30 files to include that bad address status, but that doesn't mean the vendor's bad. It doesn't mean that the vendor you can't create an order against that vendor. It's more a internal status that we use to track until we can get the address updated for a essentially active vendor. The vendor is still in active status. So 5 and 6 don't really apply to this meeting. I left them on there because, it's just, this is an update for both interface and integration. So I will skip to number 7, and number 7 I'm pretty excited about. I know we have heard from some of y'all during initial conversations, prior to the end of the year when we thought we were going live at the beginning of the year. But there were some changes around the comments and the attachments, and we weren't able to provide as much flexibility as we did in the current EVA today. I'm happy to announce that with this additional time that we have received, that we have had the ability to go back and make updates to the comments and attachment sections, and it is completely flexible now. You can send internal attachments, comments. You can send comments and attachments to the suppliers at both the header and the commodity lines level. So very happy this additional time that we got here allowed us that opportunity to add that additional functionality in there. So very pleased about that. But really, that is the update that I have for you today. The interface region is open now for testing. I encourage everybody to go out there and start testing, get your hands in it, understand how Evaluate works and how the data loads, test different processes that you would internally like in some production environment. And so obviously we want you to create orders, we want you to do change orders, we want you to do cancellations, any kind of concept or any kind of process or any kind of way that you would create orders today in the environment. We would love for you to do that and test that out going forward in the new environment. And then, as you're checking orders, especially, if you're creating orders that get loaded into Evaluate, and not all orders get loaded into Evaluate, some go directly to the data warehouse, but certainly if there are orders that are going into Evaluate, I encourage you to go into Evaluate and look at Evaluate and make sure that your data is kind of coming over correctly and you understand where it's going. But it's open now. Please get out there. Please start testing. And let us know if you have any questions. We'll certainly work with you and try to figure it out. I mean, it's a new system for all of us, and so we will certainly work with you and figure out what's the right approach to do. For me, that's really all of my update that I have here today. It's questions about user accounts, user setup. There's 2 different documents out there in the Knowledge Center today. I've got the document that we're seeing here on your screen right now of what's changing, and we'll go ahead and get that updated in the Knowledge Center. But then we will post a second document out there that essentially is vendors that we know are good and that are created all the way through that we would suggest you use in your testing effort. And so I will get that document posted out there to the Knowledge Center. And I would suggest using some of those vendors there that are on those documents, as registered vendors that we know work well and configured properly. you're welcome to test out what you want, but test everything out. I mean, I test everything out that you can. But I will get both of those documents posted out there today. And then, depending on there, we will soon also get this meeting today posted out. So that anybody's able to rewatch if they weren't able to attend today. But how about that? Does anybody kind of have any questions for me? Anything I can answer? If I don't,
Hey, Joel, it's Shane.
Yeah.
You do have a question. I just popped over to the chat and Sharita was asking, are there specific suppliers that need to be utilized for interface testing?
Kind of what I was referring to. And thank you, Sharita, for that question. Thank you, Shane, for bringing it up. I am not, I guess, seeing there are a whole bunch of chat. Thank you. I wasn't really keeping an eye on the chat. I was kind of looking at the screen. But yeah, we do have a certain list of suppliers who has created that list for me. We will get that posted out there. And currently out there right now that has some of those vendors, but there has been some updates and some additional vendors.
And Lisa, I think, just shot me a note that says that they're posted on the testing page under,
Okay.
All right, here we go. So yes, there are some specific suppliers. They're posted on the testing page under the exploratory testers, suppliers recommended for import, integration, and interface. So there are some recommended suppliers, and they're on, again, the testing page that's available through the transition newsroom.
Thank you very much, Shane. And then I do actually have an updated document that we will post out there today that has some additional vendors out there that we can also use for testing. So thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Shane. Thanks, Sharita. Thanks, everybody, for bringing it all. I guess I need to take a look at the chats to see. So question, when will we begin report testing? So the report environment is out there. Now there is a nuance that we're kind of working out right now as far as the reports go. A lot of the 200 series reports have been pushed out there, are ready for testing. Internally, when I log in, we are still working on it. I mean, I see Lisa sent a note there. We are still actively working on reports. I don't want you to believe that all the reports are completely developed and they're out there. There are some issues that we're working on about getting signed to the reporting area. And the way user accounts kind of come over. And so if you go out there and you're unable to see any of the reports, we are working on getting that fixed. If you're out there and are able to see reports, I don't have any issues with you running reports out there, but just kind of keeping an eye. We are certainly working through them. We're going through them internally. We're doing some validations on them. We're comparing them against different environments, and we are getting those set. Okay, I will start towards the top. Enlarge, please. Sorry, I did not see that message ahead of time about enlarging. I assume you were talking about the what I displayed, so I apologize that I did not have that larger on the screen for y'all. Vicki, this will be posted out there in the transition newsroom. So I will post that Word document out there. So sorry, I didn't see that earlier. I wasn't paying attention to the chat as I was talking, and I need to be better about that. So what I will promise you is that next time I will have the chat up and running, and I will be looking at things as I'm talking, so that I'll get to these at the end of the conversation and somebody's like, well, what was the first thing you said? So sorry about that, Vicki. And then thank you, Lisa, for putting the link out there for the testing notice when we'll begin report testing. And then can we see a demo of this is another one from Vicki. Can we see a demo of the internal comments and use attachments? I certainly could walk you through that. I may not be the best person to walk you through that, and it may be difficult if I was to try to do that right now, but I'm willing to give it a shot. Let's see. Let's see if I can do this. Just give me a second here, and I will. Okay, so let me stop sharing and start sharing. This up with this one. Okay, y'all should see my screen now, and you may see more on my screen than you typically see. I will go through and start creating a requisition. Now, we do have a comment section that is here, but we also have down here, we have a additional internal comment section where, I can put, type in internal comments. I need to.
The internal comments have been temporarily disabled right now while we're working on conversion and data warehouse items. So as soon as that field is available where we can edit and it's made so users can edit the internal comments, we'll communicate that out.
Hi, this is Vicki Chapman. Hi, thanks for showing this, Joel. So yesterday I was on EVA On Demand and I was told that that field would no longer exist. So that was the reason I wanted you to demo the fact that we would have this availability.
As far as I know, and Lisa, are you aware? I mean, all the functionality for internal comments and attachments and supplier attachments and comments will still be there, correct? In the future,
Right. Mark and I just went over that ticket again yesterday. It was the internal comments feature. And Vicki, I'm sorry, I know that our team was sending messages out as well to me about that yesterday, and we were getting them pointed to the right tickets. The internal comments field as of right now is not editable, and that's to support some efforts that we're doing with conversion and data warehouse. And that is something that we will be making sure is available to users at Go Live. So that way you will be able to have a place to mark those internal comments. The fields that we have right now for comments will be visible to suppliers. That a good question though, and those on-demand support hours is definitely the best place for that. I'm sorry that there was some confusion with that as well. We're continuing to have updates. As you can tell, like our environment is getting more and more stable with less updates, but just still, we have a couple more releases to go before everything is what you will expect at Go Live.
Okay, good. So we tried this, and we also tried, I can't remember if I did this on demand, but maybe we don't have to do it here, but I couldn't get attachments to stay with the order either yesterday.
Yep.
Is that still working?
There's a known issue with that that's been
Okay.
reported. That ticket's being tracked right now as well.
Thank you.
Thank you
All
for
right.
sharing too. And
Absolutely.
also thank you for everybody that's on this call, because I know I've heard from several of you over the last few months reporting unique issues that you have found. We believe it's a security issue. And Vicki, I'm not going to promise, but I think that if you check after our migration tonight, that attachment issue may be resolved. But again, that's something that we're looking at today with our current migration. We think it's a security setting that we're adjusting.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. Appreciate that. One thing we talked about with our testing is we don't know what's working and what isn't as a whole. It's difficult to say I need to put a JIRA ticket in if something isn't working, it's already recorded, and we've of course all wasted our time on it and wasting your time. Is there a way to share information with us, maybe in a release notes or something, so that we don't keep doing the same thing over and over?
What we're doing is the account executives are included in the ticketing system that we use. So that way they have the ability, we're including your organization's acronym in that for searching purposes to be able to update you when those come in and when they're available. They get those live updates. So if you haven't heard anything, then I would assume that hasn't come into a release yet. We still have a couple of releases left. We have a big one coming in tonight with a lot of options. However, we also need time to vet those ourselves and test them internally. you're in our sandbox right now where we test things first too. So that is also, you're just in a little bit sooner. I don't want to commit to release notes right now because I would then not be able to document the issues that are coming in. Like I have to pick which way we want, right? But once we get to production, that is definitely something that we'll be committed to restarting with you all. And hopefully, I would say we could consider seeing after March when we are done, once we get like to the middle of March, once we've gotten most of our enhancements and fixes and bugs in, that would be a time where we could potentially consider sharing out that information. It's just the sending out the technical notes isn't, I've heard directly from the field and many of you on this phone call that some of the technical side of this doesn't necessarily help you. So we have to translate that into a user experience. So it's a manual process for us on our part too. So I don't want to commit to release notes just yet.
Hey, Joel,
Yes.
you have a question from Dean, and since you had the screen up, it's probably easier just to show people asking about the accounting line. If you just pull up a order, or I can just show people real quick. The basics is I value at the accounting line level doesn't show a line number. Internally, they have a key, right? A record ID. Because they don't have a external line number that repeats with each PO. That's what Joel was alluding to. I think you pull up anyone that's ordered, Joel is fine.
Mark, does it correlate at all back to the rec? Because right now on the rec itself, it does the rec number hyphen.
Yeah. The line items still all correlate to each other. It's just, I value it just doesn't have a pretty line. So if you look here at the item level, it has a line number. But if you look down at what they consider to be the accounting, which is allocations, that level, there are no quote unquote line numbers yet, where it has to tie in back to the item level, but it doesn't have a pretty line 1, line 2, line 3 that repeats everywhere.
But it is following a similar -1, -2.
I don't know what the internal key, I'm not sure what it actually puts in the internal key for it. It's just the key of the allocation table, which.
Because we use some of that on the back for reporting, so I'll need to know
Okay.
what it's going to look like.
Yeah, that's why we'll test and then we'll see where we had. They just don't have that field in their solution right now.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dean. Thanks, Mark.
Yep.
Is there anything else additional, Mark, on the screen that you wanted to talk about or anything?
No. It was just easier than just saying, but.
Okay, so question from Jim, when will we receive the PO file and the vendor file for testing to impact on our internal systems? Are you talking about the order export file that will be coming out of Viva back to y'all?
Right, it's the file we currently receive every morning. One of them shows the purchase order, and then the other one, if there's vendor updates, it's included there.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I mean, that is available now. So that should be available now for any of the orders that you're creating in the value of the next day. You should receive a file based on the your Java client setup of downloading those files. So if you
How do we receive it then? If it's available daily and I haven't seen one yet, what do we need to do so that we can receive it to do our testing?
Yeah, so I mean, it's all based off the Java client. So the Java client sits on your server and downloads it based on the schedule that you have set for your system. And so we just turned on interface testing earlier this week, on Monday. And so, I'm not sure if you've gone out there and created any orders yet in Evalua to start seeing those orders coming down to your system.
Okay, so if I get somebody to go in and make some purchase orders, then I should start receiving them.
Correct. So, I mean, if you're doing, order import, you're sending us orders, or you're going into Evalua and creating orders, you should see those files coming down accidentally and stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, you will need to initiate some testing in order to start seeing those files come down your way.
All right, good, thank you.
Great question. Thank you. And then, hey, Dean, getting down to the next question, you said a question about the accounting line numbers. Did that get addressed with the Mark conversation just a second ago?
Partially, I think we'll have to circle back to that later when there's some more logic
Okay.
available.
All right, Dean, feel free to reach out to me if you have any kind of questions or issues, and we can talk about that. And so Vicky has a question, how do we know our agency is ready for interface testing? Our IT department says they have not been contacted yet. So the notice that kind of went out earlier in the week, we are open for testing now. And so I would say, yes, you can start your interface testing now. There are some users that have been created out there in the transition newsroom. You can take a look and see.
Hey, Joel, I'm sorry to interrupt you. So we have been testing for a long time, but we've never brought any kind of we call them VARP files or interface files. They've never come in. And our IT department, I contacted him when you sent the email out, and I said, hey, have you been contacted so we can bring those files in? And he said, no. So I feel there's a disconnect there. Does he know? I didn't see him on here. And so Jim, if you're on here, I'm sorry if I'm talking for you. I feel like we've lost a step somewhere in making sure we get those files.
And Vicky, the best thing that I can do is, and for anybody else on this call, if your IT technical folks are not in receiving communications, if you could get that information to your account executive, their contact information, we will get that to our central list that we have where we're maintaining and sharing out comms for any type of interface and integration testing.
Okay, Lisa, thank you. And another thing too, we're having one of our technical leads leaving, and I've contacted Jan Griffin or tried to contact Jan Griffin about appropriate paperwork to reassign. And I'm not getting feedback on what I need to do for the proper permission forms.
Okay, definitely your account executive. I'll make sure that I reach out to Jan as well and share that as well. Always the best channel at DPS, your first point of contact. And I believe is it Sharita, and they can escalate, your account executives can escalate things out to others at DPS, but I will definitely shoot Jan an email and just follow up with her on that as well.
Thank you.
Hey, Joel, I think it might bear repeating, just because there were a couple questions on it. If you are, and Joel, correct me if I'm wrong, if you are a current interface organization that is testing in UAT and has been testing in UAT for a while, what you should not have to do anything technically to continue that. What you have to do is go into the new solution and start creating transactions, because as of this weekend, the interface has been changed to point from the current EVA solution to the new EVA solution in UAT, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
So technically, I don't know who's just asking the last question, maybe it was Vicky. Technically, your IT folks shouldn't have to do anything. You now just have to, now your interface has been pointed to the test application and for the new solution. So creating transactions should do it, and then you should start seeing a file. It's just coming from the source.
Oh, I gotcha. I understand what you're saying. And that started last weekend.
Yeah, right.
Okay. All right. We'll check on it. Thank you.
Yeah. Monday was the first day that we turned over the code to the new value application. So previously, all the code was pointed to our old, our existing region that we have today. And now we're in our new testing environment and solely looking towards the future.
Okay. Thank you.
And Vicky, and again, if you have problems and you do some more testing, if you're still not having issues, feel free to reach out to me, and I can get some folks to help us look through the issues. I mean, if there's something from a interface perspective, I can certainly bring in the new and help try to track down where we think the issues are.
Okay. Thank you.
Let me see.
And for anybody sending the import interface order files, like, before you start testing, if you want to verify a few things, like, if your users are set up in the new environment, or if you want to verify on your build to and ship to IDs, you can reach out to us on that. And then probably you have to use the new test vendors that we kind of provided. So those are few things you need to be cautious, but yeah, most of your like file layout will still be the same. Some values may vary. So you just want to verify. If you want to verify, you can always do so.
Thanks, Anna. Then we have a question from KCF 17540. Can you share the document that had all the changes that Joel was explaining with the group? Yes, I will. We will post the document that has all the changes to the Knowledge Center. So it'll be available out there, and we will just replace the document that we have. So you'll have the latest and greatest changes that we are aware of out there. Okay, I think I've reached the end of the questions and stuff like that. And so I'm not sure if anybody has any kind of additional questions they wanted to ask out loud or type in. And certainly, I definitely appreciate everybody dialing in today, going through this. Any kind of questions that we had, thanks for asking those. Certainly, if you have a question, most likely somebody else has that question too. So definitely appreciate it. We do continue to plan on doing these sessions, into the future, as we see if anything changes or anything. And you're always welcome to reach out me directly, if you have any kind of questions, and certainly I can get, the right resources pointed in the right direction. So thank you everybody today for your time. I appreciate it. And happy testing. Happy testing. Please go out there and start trying to test in the region. The sooner we can find out if there's any kind of issues, the better off we'll all be. So thank you. And thanks for everybody who's already been out there testing and looking at things. I know there's been a lot of people out there constantly testing the application, and the feedback has been most valuable. So definitely appreciate it very much. Okay, I don't really see any additional questions out there. So I guess we'll go ahead and call that a day. And we'll go ahead and get the new documents posted out there to the Knowledge Center. So yeah, please reach out to the Knowledge Center, and the vendors will be out there. The test vendors to use will be out there. Account names will be out there. Any kind of updates will be out there. So Transition Newsroom is the place to see. So thank you everybody for your time today.